All right, so the first example we're going to look at involves CDs. So I'm going to read the question to you, and I want you to try to think about the best way that you would go about solving it. A store is selling new CDs for $14.99 and previously owned CDs for $10.99. You buy 10 discs and spend a total of $117.90. How many of each kind did you buy? Show your equations and your work. All right, so because we're dealing with the new CDs and old CDs, we first have to figure out, well, the first thing that we see is the selling of the new CDs for $14.99. So we're going to represent the $14.99 as the X. We're also going to represent the new CDs as the Y. So the new CDs are the X's, I'm sorry, and the old CDs, the previously owned CDs, are the Y. So you're going to buy a total of 10 of them and spend a total of $117. So the way that you would set up the equation is as follows. So we're going to take the first amount, which we're going to say $14.99 X. We're going to add it to the previously owned CDs, which we're going to say $10.99 Y. And because they spent a total of $117.99, we're going to set it equal to that, 117.90. Now, for the second equation, we don't know how many new CDs and old CDs that they bought in order to buy 10 discs. So all we're going to do is set that up with X plus Y equals 10. Now we have our two equations. So you have to think about what is the best way in order to solve this problem. Would it be by using the elimination method, or would it be by using the substitution method? And the answer is the substitution method, because it's easy to solve for one of the variables in the second equation. So I'm going to take my second equation and I'm going to solve for y. Now it doesn't matter which one you solve for. You can either solve for x and y. So I'm going to take we have equation number 1 and we have equation number 2. I'm going to take my equation number 2 and I'm going to solve for y. And when I do that, I get y equals negative x plus 10. So now that I know that y equals negative x plus 10, I'm going to substitute that negative x plus 10 in place for the y in the first equation. And that is going to enable me to solve for x. So I'm going to take $14.99 x plus $10.99. Now this time, instead of writing the y, I'm replacing the y with negative x plus 10, and I'm going to set that equal to $117.99. And now the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to solve for x. All right, so I'm going to bring down this $14.99 x plus, now I have to use the distributive property. So I'm going to distribute that 10.99 times negative x, and when I do that, that will give me negative $10.99, or 10.99x, and then when I multiply $10.99 times 10, that's going to give me $109.90. Okay? And everything else I'm going to bring down. Okay, make sure that when you're taking your notes that you're writing everything nice and neat like I do, so that when you go back and study, you're able to check your work and follow through. All right, so now the next thing that I'm going to do when I'm solving an equation is combining like terms. Okay, so I'm going to combine these two terms right here because they have the same variable. All right, so when I add 1499, and I'm sorry, when I subtract that from 1099, I get 4x. All right, I'm going to bring everything else down. Okay, now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract $109.90 from both sides. All right, so let's go ahead and subtract that. All right, and now we're going to bring down what's left. Okay, so now I bring down this 4x, and it just so happens that the 109.90, those cancel out. When I subtract $117 and 90 cents minus $109.90, I get 8. So when I solve for x, I get 2. Now you have to pay attention to what the problem is asking, because in the original problem, we just solved for x, so that's telling us how much the new CDs are, or that's telling us that we can buy 2 new CDs. So when you label your answer, you need to make sure that you do just that. So we have new CDs. We can buy 2 of those. Now we're going to figure out how many of the old CDs that we can purchase. So what we're going to do in order to solve that is we're going to go back to our second equation, which was x plus y equals 117, and we're going to substitute a 2 in place for the x, and that's going to be able to help us solve for y. Sorry, we're actually setting it equal to 10 because that was what the original equation was. So when we set it equal to 10, we get that y equals 8. So that tells us that we can buy 8 used CDs. Now, this is the answer to our problem, but we want to make sure that we always check our work. All right? So here's how we check it. We're going to plug these answers in. 1499 times 2 plus 1099 times 8, and that should equal $117.90. When we check the other one, we get that 2 plus 8, that equals 10. And when we solve for both of these, it comes out that they're true. So that's how we know that we got the answer correct.